we ring up the bill, $265,000. Hey, what's going on, guys? Car Guy Gaming here, back with another video. Today, guys, we are actually not going to be playing the game. Some of you guys have asked for this over on my Discord server, so if you are not on the Discord server, I'll leave a link down below or up in the eye over here, somewhere like that. But some of you guys have requested that I do a story time video. In the Q&A, one of the questions was, have I died? And my answer to that question was yes. But there's more to that story. It's not just a black and white, oh yeah, I died and came back from the dead because God saved me. No, that's not what happened. But I have gotten some requests to explain it. So this is going to be a bit of a serious video, guys. So if you don't want that, then I'm probably not going to do this again unless you guys really, really want it. Like a lot of you guys want it. So, but this is just going to be story time. So let's get into it. Yeah, the question was from Cramcraft. It was, have you ever game overed? Here's the story. So it's like 6 weeks-ish, or like maybe 2 weeks before I was born, my supposed birthday, like the day my birthday is supposed to be, is, I believe, May 24th. Don't quote me on that, but my birthday was supposed to be May 24th, I think. Hold up, let me check. Okay, no, so it was actually May 26th. My birthday was supposed to be May 26th. And so, it's 2 weeks, it's 8 weeks before that. 8 weeks before my supposed birthday, or my intended birthday. And so, my parents go to the doctor just to have like a checkup to, you know, the ultrasound thing that's really annoying. So they do that, and when they look at my heart, and I'm only like this big at this point, I'm like really small, but they somehow get a look at my heart, and so I'm gonna throw a picture up right here. I'm quite certain that will be the actual picture, but if I don't get a hold of it, I will let you guys know in the editing. So that valve, there's 4 valves in your heart. There's, you know, the 4, like, chambers. So there's the right ventricle, the left ventricle, the right atrium, the left atrium. And so I believe it's the right atrium. It houses the the heart valve. And that sends blood to the pulmonary artery, which goes to the lungs. What happened was that valve was stuck. There was some sort of like inflammation. What the actual medical term for it is PA/IVS, which stands for pulmonary atresia with intact ventricular system, or septum. So a septum is like a wall, and the ventricular septum is the wall that separates the right ventricle from the left ventricle. So one form is PA something. I'll put it up on the screen. I did a project on it. It was quite interesting, actually. But what happened was that in that other form, the one that I didn't get, the pulmonary valve doesn't form at all. And so, but the one I got, it forms, but it's inflamed and it's stuck. So it's shut and it won't allow blood to pass through. And so, the first place blood usually goes, I think it's the first place it goes, but certainly the place the majority of the oxygen in the blood goes is where? The noggin, the brain. And so, when you can't get blood to the brain, that's called a stroke. when they need to perform surgery on a heart, usually what they will do is they will put you on something called a bypass machine. I'll throw a picture of one up on screen here. And so what a bypass machine does is it basically reroutes your blood. So instead of going to your heart, it goes outside your body to a mechanical pump that just pumps your blood through. And so that's so that they can stop your heart to do surgery on it. And so the actual medical definition of being clinically dead, there are two kinds of dead. There's clinically dead, and then there's like you're actually dead. And so clinically dead just means, the medical term dead means either your heart is not pumping, your heart is stopped, or your brain, I believe it's the brain stem, has fallen off, or the brain is not working at all. And so your heart's stopping, so if they put you on bypass, they have to stop your heart. So technically, that counts as being dead. Technically. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, I died and came back to life, because not really, I wasn't actually dead. It's just, they had to stop my heart, so technically they killed me. I did not sue them because it saved my life. But basically what happened is they had to take a catheter. And so what a catheter is basically just a big, long, very flexible stick. And this is how far medical technology has come. They made an incision down there, and they had to take the catheter and go up through the blood vessels in my body leading to my heart. Somehow they knew exactly which ones would take them straight there the quickest. How did they do that? I don't know. Technology. But so basically what they had to do was they kind of had, like, my thumb here is the valve. They kind of had to like poke at it until it opened. And so that valve it works now, but it's not really a valve. The point of a valve is to open and close off flow whenever it needs to. This valve, because it was stuck and they had to pop it open, it's really more of a flap. So when I went to get, about 2 years ago, I went to get an MRI. And so, because they know they're going to have to replace the valve at some point, because what happens is, in the MRI, it really showed this, and when I go to get, I have to get, yearly echocardiograms and EKGs. If you don't know what that is, I'll leave a link down below to an article, but, so I have to get, yearly EKGs, and basically what that is, it's an ultrasound, but instead of, looking at a baby, they look at, your heart, echocardiogram, so they're taking pictures of your heart. And so basically what the EKG showed a few years back was there was a lot of backflow. So blood was going through, the valve was doing its job, the heart was doing its job, it would pump the blood through, but then when the valve needed to close, it would open to about this big, but then it would only close to about here. It's supposed to close all the way. It didn't. It only closed to about here. So therefore there was a lot of backflow of blood, so it wasn't very efficient. And so the doctor basically said, let's just get an MRI. We're going to, just to be safe, to see if you really do need a valve replacement. And so a year later, I believe, I went to the Maryland Children's Hospital, I believe, in D.C., and so I had to wake up at 3 a.m., get in the car, and I had to be there by, I think, 5, and then we were waiting till 9 o'clock in the waiting room. It was awful. Finding my way around that hospital was awful, but basically what they did is they did an MRI to scan my heart and see if I really needed a valve replacement. So then a few weeks later, we got the results back, and basically what the doctor said was, he's going to need it, but not yet. And so what we mean is, when you have, I guess it's an artificial valve. It's not really a valve at all. It's more of a flap. And so, as I grow, it's going to lose efficiency even more, and it's going to become more critical that we eventually are going to have to replace it. By the time that happens, though, it's pretty much going to be outpatient surgery. Thank God. And basically what they're going to do is they're just going to send a robot in through, like, blood vessels in my leg. They're going to send a robot in and, like, send it up. It's going to take the old valve out, put the new one in, and come back out, and we can dispose of the old valve. Like, that's what it's going to be like, basically, which I'm very grateful for, the medical technology. And so, let me just give you some stats for you numbers people on this disease, I guess, the PAIVS. So it's what's called a CHD, a congenital heart defect. So congenital means it was present at birth, and then it's a heart defect. And so PAIVS, it was, I guess, discovered in, I think, 1960-something, but it was called blue baby syndrome, because I believe it's called cyanosis. When you get it, your body can't get any oxygen, so your entire body basically turns blue. And because, you know, like, usually veins are blue, people say they're not really blue, but it just looks like that. And so, from 1980 to 1995, I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of 630,000 babies were born. Out of those 630,000 babies born in those 15 years, 129 of them had pulmonary atresia. That's how rare this is. So they didn't really have much of a cure for it yet. Out of those 129 babies born in those 15 years with this disease, 56% of them died. I believe it was 72 died. That's a lot. I was born in 2005. So they actually had... So how they fixed it, they did that, but then they also had this drug that they put into the umbilical cord, and somehow it got into me. So basically, when you're in the womb, I forget the name of the valve, I'll put it up on screen, but the pulmonary valve is here. The other valve that's here stays open when you're in the womb. And then it starts to beat, it starts to open and close when you're, like, getting ready to be born. And so what they actually had to do in order to get this surgery right was they had to put the drug in me, and the drug made my brain think that I was still in the womb. So it kept that valve open. And so that drug is pretty much what saved my life. Because my parents were originally going to go to Frederick Memorial Hospital to have me born, because at that time they had just built, like, new renovated rooms, and they were really fancy, and so my mother was like, I really want to give birth there, it looks so great. But then, I forget exactly why, but we ended up not going there, and we went to Shady Grove Hospital in Rockville. And so, that pretty much saved my life, because the Frederick Memorial Hospital, it turns out they didn't actually have the drug to put in the umbilical cord to keep that valve open. And so, this is why I'm such a, like, strong advocate for ventilators and masks and people getting what they need, because I needed a ventilator when I was born. I was 21 days in the NICU, which is the ICU, but the N stands for newborn, so the newborn intensive care unit. 3 weeks in the NICU took this, and the only bad part about all this was the bill. We ring up the bill, $265,000. Now, that sounds like a lot, and I'm actually surprised that this happened. Insurance decided that they were going to cover all but $800 of this bill for this surgery. I'm surprised they did that. I'm honestly surprised they did that. I've heard so many stories of insurance companies refusing to pay for, like, treatments and stuff because it's too experimental or whatever. And so I forget which insurance company we were using at the time, but they literally saved my life. And that's a big thing, because as most of you know, I am a Jew. And so in one of the Jewish books, the Talmud, it mentions that to save a life is to save a world. So basically what it's saying is saving a life is the equivalent to saving the entire world. Now, how much a lot of you believe that, that's up to you. But, you know, insurance, it really is needed. I mean, if I was in Israel, I probably could have gotten the same treatment from an organization called Yad Sarah that I actually got to visit. And there were a lot of people there who who basically went through the same thing as me. And so when I said on the Q&A video that yes, I have game over, we don't say that on YouTube. We don't say that word. But so yes, I have, but I mean not really. So that reason and basically that whole story and then I heard other stories about, you know, kids who had the same thing, and they usually used like YouTube to, like, I guess, be happy, like get them out of there, because, you know, when that happens to you, like when that happens to your kid, like imagine my parents, when that happens to your kid and you hear your kid may not live, it's kind of heartbreaking, and it makes you really scared. And so I've heard a lot of stories about people that have used YouTube to you know, help with depression and get through tough times like this one. And so that's really what made me start YouTube. That, like I said, I know I said on the Q&A that it was because, you know, it just looked like fun, but really this story is like, that's why I started YouTube, to like help people like me, really, and, you know, my parents, people like my parents, to get through this, to give you something to laugh at. That's really why I started YouTube. So this has been story time number 1. If you guys do want another story time video, leave a like down below, maybe comment what other kind of story time videos you want to see. And yeah, this has been story time number 1, my life story, I guess, from the beginning. And without further ado, I will see you dudes tomorrow.